Soo-hyun is a famous writer. She's the first Korean writer to win the Nobel Prize for Literature. Her ironic fate caused her to miscarry 4 times. With great difficulty, she gave birth to a son. Her happy life lasted for 7 years. When Soo-hyun thought that her life would always be beautiful and happy, an accident happened. Early that morning, Soo-hyun was invited to attend a book signing. Only her husband Soo-ho was at home taking care of their child. Soo-ho had previously resolutely quit his job as a reporter because he could not stand the false reports from his superiors and the illegal acts. That day, Soo-ho suddenly felt that his son had a fever. He immediately called Soo-hyun to ask where she kept the fever-reducing medicine. Although she had given her husband careful instructions, Soo-hyun still could not rest assured, so she asked for leave and took a taxi home. When her son saw Soo-hyun return, he immediately threw himself into his mother's arms. Soo-hyun touched Gunwoo's forehead and found that the fever was gone. Only then did she feel relieved. Then Soo-hyun went inside to put away her luggage, but as soon as she entered, she noticed her husband's evasive gaze. It seemed that Soo-ho was hiding something. Soo-hyun grabbed it to check and found out that it was a sedative. It turned out that after Soo-ho quit his job, he had been taking medicine to stabilize his mood and emotions. As a wife, she had only just learned about her husband's condition today. Soo-hyun felt a little guilty. She hugged Soo-ho and comforted him. Suddenly, they heard a dog barking in the yard. Soo-hyun immediately ran outside and found that Gunwoo was missing. The door was wide open. The couple realized that something was wrong and immediately split up to look for their son, but they couldn't find Gunwoo anywhere in the whole neighborhood. Soo-hyun passed by an intersection. She happened to see one of Gunwoo's shoes on the side of the road. At this time, Soo-hyun's spirit was no longer calm. She cried and hurriedly ran to find her son, but by evening, she still couldn't find him. The police also had no clue. At that moment, Soo-hyun saw police and many people standing on the side of the road. Her mind was completely blank, and she slowly walked over. But the closer she got, the more uneasy Soo-hyun felt. A boy wearing one shoe was brought out of the crowd, and that boy was Soo-hyun's missing son. At this time, Gunwoo had fallen into a deep coma and was immediately taken to the emergency room. Soo-hyun's hands were shaking non-stop. It seemed like she had forgotten how to cry. She could only helplessly wait outside the operating room door. Not long after, Soo-ho along with the younger sister and mother all arrived at the hospital. 2 hours later, the doctor came out and informed the family that they had tried their best, but the child's condition was very bad. Hopefully the family could prepare for the worst. If only Gunwoo could have been taken to the hospital earlier, the chance of being saved would have been much greater. Soo-ho knelt down in pain. He kept begging the doctor to save his son. However, it was too late. Because of the pain, Soo-hyun wanted to cry, but couldn't. She remembered the happy moments, like the first time her son smiled at her, the first time her son rolled over and stood up, the first time he got sick, or the first time he changed teeth, and many other firsts. But now, Gunwoo was in the intensive care unit. There were many tubes and a ventilator on his body, so Soo-hyun asked the nurse to let her cut her son's nails. Soo-hyun cried and prayed for a miracle to happen. However, what she received was the alarm sound from the heart monitor. After the doctor checked, Gunwoo was no longer breathing. Even though Soo-hyun didn't want to accept this painful truth, she still had to cover her son with a blanket. At Gunwoo's funeral, Soo-hyun held her son's ashes tightly in her arms. The promise between mother and son kept appearing in her mind. Soo-ho knew that his wife was in great pain, but he could only tremble and take the urn from Soo-hyun's hand. He gave it to the undertaker to bury in the cemetery. The moment the soil was covered, Soo-hyun cried to the depths of her sorrow. That night, the couple returned home. They saw at the scene where Gunwoo was stabbed to death. People had given many gifts to remember the boy. Soo-hyun knelt on the ground, caressing the body line that the police had drawn. Painful emotions suddenly surged. She could only lie down in the place where her son was hit by the car. Not long after, the driver who caused the accident could not bear the pressure of public opinion and chose to confess. According to Korean law, causing an accident to a child is a very serious crime. However, in the first trial, the doctor in charge of the treatment said that the traffic accident caused Gunwoo to have a brain hemorrhage. The boy needed surgery as soon as possible. If he could be taken to the hospital immediately, there would be a high chance of saving him and he would not have died. But the defense attorney objected. He argued that the defendant wanted to take Gunwoo to the hospital sooner, so he picked him up and put him in the car. But the boy suddenly stopped breathing. The defendant was so scared that he left the boy behind and ran away. Later, because he felt that his actions were wrong, he voluntarily turned himself in. In addition, the defense attorney also wanted to ask Soo-hyun to appear in court. After getting her consent, Soo-hyun stood in the dock. The defense attorney asked her if Gunwoo had a fever on the day of the accident. Furthermore, she was on a business trip at the time. Soo-hyun replied that her son had not been sick before her business trip. The defense attorney asked again where she was and where Gunwoo was when the accident happened. The defense attorney concluded that it was because the mother was irresponsible and left her feverish son alone in the yard. Before Soo-hyun could explain, the defense attorney asked again how the boy usually went out. Soo-hyun tried to recall what happened on the day of the incident, but she couldn't remember if she closed the door or not. She could only answer that she didn't remember. And this was exactly the answer the defense attorney wanted. He said that the cause of the incident was because Soo-hyun didn't take good care of her sick son, and there were no emergency precautions. The prosecutor immediately objected and asserted that these matters were not related to the case, and the judge supported her. However, Soo-hyun saw the defense attorney whisper something into the driver's ear. During the days waiting for the verdict, Soo-hyun could only cry in pain. Soo-ho wasn't much better either. When he filled out the application for his son's death certificate, he was so heartbroken that he could not even hold a pen. Not long after, the final verdict came. The judge, based on relevant legal provisions, declared the defendant innocent due to insufficient evidence. However, after synthesizing the testimony of witnesses and other evidence, the judge determined that the defendant had violated the criminal law for special crimes, and the crime of causing a hit-and-run accident resulting in death. However, because the defendant confessed and was remorseful, and considering that at the time of the incident, the defendant panicked and did not intentionally cause the accident, the defendant was sentenced to 2 years and 6 months in prison and given a 4-year suspended sentence. Soo-ho almost went crazy after hearing this and rushed to fight the defendant. However, after the defendant saw that, he knelt down in front of everyone and pretended to confess. In the end, Soo-ho was so agitated that he was chased out of the courtroom. Soo-hyun sat there with her eyes fixed. It wasn't until late afternoon that she finally came to her senses. At this time, the phone on the ground suddenly received a text message. Soo-hyun picked it up to take a look. It was the phone her husband had dropped. The text message contained an address. At the same time, the driver who had caused Gun-woo's accident called a mysterious person. The driver said that he had followed the mysterious person's instructions and had been acquitted. This mysterious person was the former mayor of the district, Kim Jun. Soo-hyun followed the address in the text message and blocked the driver who had caused the accident. She asked him to apologize to her son. However, he gave her a business card and asked her to come to his company to get the money she wanted. Seeing that Soo-hyun refused to accept it, he pinned the business card to Gun-woo's portrait. Seeing that Soo-hyun wouldn't let go, he pushed her to the ground. Soo-hyun immediately stood up and grabbed the driver's ankle. This made him angry and accidentally revealed the truth. Because of this incident, his reputation was greatly affected. After calming down, the driver asked Soo-hyun not to cause any more trouble. After all, the living must continue to live. Hearing this, Soo-hyun smiled. She herself thought that the driver still had a conscience, so she picked up her son's portrait, resolutely got into the car, and started the car without hesitation. If conscience and the law could not judge the wicked, then she had to be the law to avenge her son's unjust death. So Soo-hyun drove and killed the driver. On the day of sentencing, after her arrest, she admitted that her actions were wrong, but if she had the chance to choose again, she would still do the same. Therefore, she did not ask the judge to consider reducing her sentence. After the incident became public, Soo-hyun, who was originally a famous female writer, became a person hated and criticized by everyone. No one wanted to find out the truth of the matter. All they knew was that she had killed someone. She was a heartless criminal. People even shouted for an increased sentence. However, Soo-ho knew that his wife had been wronged. He vowed to find justice for her. Soo-hyun was sentenced to 7 years in prison. After losing her child, she seemed to have nothing left to hold on to. Soo-ho was also very miserable. He had to live his life in pain and sadness. A month later, there were still enthusiastic fans sending letters to Soo-hyun. However, she still could not forget the pain of losing her son. Every day, she sat in a corner, sad. Even when Soo-ho visited, she refused to meet him. Soo-ho had no choice but to ask the prison warden to give his wife a stack of volunteer letters. After that, he secretly sent the stack of letters, the papers filled with longing. The content of the letter was that Soo-ho knew how much pain Soo-hyun would feel when she saw him, but Soo-ho told Soo-hyun to be patient and wait for him. He would do his best to clear her name. Soo-ho did exactly what he said in the letter. He collected documents related to the case, the driver's confession, and suspicious evidence that the police did not disclose in court. It turned out that the driver was drunk on the day of the incident, but his alcohol level was only 0.03. Soo-ho discovered the hotel where the driver drank. At the same time, he used his connections to get a video from the surveillance camera on the day of the incident. The surveillance video recorded the scene of the man who had got a drink with the driver was former mayor Kim Jun. On the other hand, during the execution of the sentence, the indispensable work was sewing clothes. That day, when Soon was sewing, she suddenly saw the pattern on the shirt. It was exactly the same as the one on the shirt her son was wearing. This made her remember that happy time. She didn't know if she was distracted or wanted to punish herself, because even though the sewing machine pierced through her palm, she didn't have any expression. She didn't even show any pain. Fortunately, her fellow prisoners discovered her, and the prison guards took her to the hospital in time. While in a coma, Soo-hyun seemed to have returned to that day. After saying goodbye to the neighbors, she and Gun-woo entered the yard. She used her injured hand to close the door. The doctor informed Soo-hyun's mother that because the case had caused Soo-hyun too much trauma, she suffered from severe anxiety and depression. There was no mother in the world who didn't love her child. Soo-hyun's mother immediately rushed into her daughter's room. She was afraid that if this continued, something would happen to Soo-hyun too, but Soo-hyun kept repeating that she had clearly closed the door. If she could confirm it again, Gun-woo wouldn't have died. She painfully blamed herself. At the same time, based on the evidence collected, Soo-ho guessed that the defense attorney and former mayor Kim Jun were close friends. The driver and former mayor Kim Jun had a partnership. The judge who was trying the case was also close to former mayor Kim Jun. That is, the driver, the defense attorney, and the judge, all three of them had a close relationship with each other. The trial was unfair from the start. The person who could influence this case was none other than the former mayor and and current representative of the Korean United Party, Kim Jun. At this moment, a strange phone call came in. Soon after, Suho went to Kim Jun's office. It turned out that Kim Jun wanted to know why Suho was investigating him. Suho didn't say much and went straight to the point. Kim Jun had used his connections to help a small construction company owner. The purpose was to cover up his previous corruption. Because the driver was in charge of the original project. After all, Suho had lost everything. Now he was not afraid of anything. Suho was determined to get justice for his wife and son and expose Kim Jun's corruption. However, after hearing what Suho said, Kim Jun was not afraid at all. He asked his secretary to show Suho a video. The video content is the surveillance camera footage in front of Suho's house on the day of the incident. Kim Jun threatened Suho. He must know what he should and shouldn't do. In prison, Soo-hyun's hand was injured, so it was inconvenient for her to work. Fellow inmate Hung-ja always took the initiative to help her, from heavy tasks like carrying water to light tasks like hanging clothes. Because Hung-ja felt that Soo-hyun was like her old self. Time passed quickly. Under Hung-ja's care, Soo-hyun's hand almost recovered. To thank Hung-ja, Soo-hyun gave Hung-ja a new pair of glasses. The friendship between the two became closer and gradually deepened. On Suho's side, after being threatened by Kim Jun, in order to protect his wife's safety, he agreed to sign a confidentiality agreement. At the same time, he got a good job and the opportunity to develop abroad. Soon after, Suho's mother went to see Soo-hyun's mother. Suho's mother hoped that Soo-hyun's mother could understand her son. The implication was that if the daughter-in-law had to go to jail, she should not implicate her husband. The next day, Soo-hyun's mother and younger sister came to visit Soo-hyun. The younger sister accidentally told her about this. The younger sister also told her that she absolutely could not leave her brother-in-law. Otherwise, how would Soo-hyun live after being released from jail? In fact, Soo-hyun had also thought about this problem, but she was still undecided. Not long after, Suho was allowed to visit his wife. As soon as Soo-hyun sat down, she immediately asked Suho not to come here anymore. Today was considered the last time the two of them would see each other. She did not want to see her husband sad and heartbroken because of her, but Suho told her not to think like that. He just wanted to be by his wife's side and go through this difficult time with her. However, Soo-hyun told him to look at it clearly. She was a murderer. If he had to carry the name of having a murderer as his wife, then his future would be gone. Therefore, she asked for a divorce and did not give Suho any chance. After saying that, Soo-hyun turned around and left. However, after the prison visit ended, Suho breathed a sigh of relief as if he had gotten rid of his troubles. In fact, Soo-hyun did so because she did not want to hinder her husband's future. That night, she hid in a corner and cried. Hung-ja saw this and sat down next to her. She comforted Soo-hyun that it was good that she could cry. 4 years quickly passed. That day, Hyung-ja was chatting with Soo-hyun. In fact, Hyun-ja always had one wish. She hoped that those who had suffered because of her could find their own happiness. It turned out that Hung-ja was suffering from cancer that had progressed to an untreatable stage. However, she didn't feel sad. Instead, she believed that dying this way was the price she had to pay for the things she had done. The reason she was so open with Soo-hyun was that she didn't want her to face the pain of separation without any preparation. Furthermore, Hyun-ja also had something she wanted to ask Soo-hyun for help with. She gave Soo-hyun a notebook, which contained a record of an arson case. It turned out that Hyun-ja had discovered that her husband had a mistress. In a fit of rage, she wanted to burn her husband and his mistress to death, so she set fire to the house, but unexpectedly the fire was so big that it spread to the neighbor's house. Only then did she realize that she had killed 3 innocent people. Only 1 boy was saved. Hyun-ja prayed every day, hoping that the child would be strong enough to continue living, and she started writing letters to the boy. Now, Hyun-ja probably couldn't apologize to the boy directly. In her heart, she truly felt ashamed and guilty. Therefore, she hoped that after Soo-hyun was released from prison, she could deliver the letter to the boy on Hyun-ja's behalf. Soo-hyun had just made her promise to Hyun-ja when, not long after, Hyun-ja passed away. Very quickly, it was 2021. In order to participate in the election, Kim Jun asked the secretary to continue to look for weaknesses in other opponents. Among them, Counselor Choi not only had a high approval rating, but was also an upright and honest person without any mistakes. So the secretary ordered Sun Yul to secretly investigate Counselor Choi's dirty deeds. Because Counselor Choi's wife was a principal and was running a school, Sun Yul immediately took action after receiving the assignment. He quietly sneaked into the school grounds. Then, when the security guard was not paying attention, Sun Yul broke into the teaching building. He went straight to the electrical room in the basement, skillfully unlocked it, and discovered many valuables. After that, Sun Yul entered the principal's office and found the ledger, which corresponded to the school's money laundering activities. At that moment, the security guard discovered a flashing light in the room, so he immediately called more people here. When they opened the principal's office door, Sun Yul had escaped through the window. The next day, Soo-hyun was released from prison. She wished her husband could come pick her up. However, the reality was completely opposite to her expectations. So, she got on the bus and went to her son's grave. Coincidentally, Sun Yul was also riding a motorbike in that direction, but the two of them did not see each other. Soo-hyun hugged her son's gravestone tightly. She did not know how long it took before she was awakened by the rain. Suddenly, an umbrella was placed over her head, and the person holding the umbrella was Sun Yul. Soo-hyun immediately reacted, and she stood up to leave. Before leaving, morning, she looked at her son's portrait again, then walked down the mountain with tears in her eyes. Son-yul glanced at the name on the gravestone. He immediately chased after her and comforted Soo-hyun. The fate of the two began from here. After visiting her son, Soo-hyun returned home. After the doorbell rang, the mother with white hair was extremely happy because her daughter had finally returned. Before Soo-hyun could say anything, her mother hugged her tightly. The mother and daughter could not help but cry. After a while of releasing her emotions, Go-eun wiped the tears from her daughter's cheeks and comforted her that everything was over. There was nothing better than being able to return home safely. However, Go-eun was still worried, afraid that her daughter would drown in the pain of losing her son. She even had extreme thoughts because of this. Although no one could bear the pain of losing a son, Go-eun hoped that Soo-hyun would not forget that she still had her mother and younger sister. Soo-hyun had promised her mother that she would never do anything stupid. On the other hand, Soo-hyun's younger sister, Yuri, relied on her own efforts to become an excellent jewelry designer. In fact, Yuri is not Go-eun's biological child, but an adopted orphan, but she is closer to Soo-hyun than a real sister. The next day, Soo-hyun went to the police station to look for information about the boy who survived the fire. However, because the police station had moved, many of the records had been lost. Therefore, she could not find any useful information. In the following days, Soo-hyun went to the neighbors near the scene of the incident to ask around, but still did not get anything. That day, Soo-hyun went to the welfare community and was given the address of the person who had treated the boy psychologically that year by the staff. Soo-hyun immediately went to the psychology professor. However, the psychology professor only remembered that the boy was always wary of everything, was afraid of fire, and had insomnia. In the end, due to the boy's refusal, the psychological counseling had to stop. As for the contact information, the doctor had to look through documents from 10 years ago to find it. When leaving the psychology professor's office, Yuri called Soo-hyun and made an appointment to meet that evening. Yuri heard that Soo-ho was about to return to the country, so she wanted to ask Soo-hyun if she planned to see Soo-ho again. It turned out that during her sentence, Soo-hyun asked Yuri to file for divorce from the husband. Although her sister didn't want to, Soo-hyun was forced to do so because Soo-ho was the person she loved the most. After wandering around for a while, Soo-hyun returned to her old house. She was about to turn around and leave, but suddenly she heard her son's laughter. The happy past of the family of three suddenly appeared in her mind and appeared right in front of her, looking extremely real. Soo-hyun couldn't help but step into the house. Everything was still the same as before, unchanged. Every item contained memories of her husband and son. Life was originally filled with such happy and fulfilling laughter, but now it was covered with a layer of white cloth. Suddenly, the figure of her son appeared before her eyes. Soo-hyun didn't care if it was real or a dream. She put down her backpack and chased after her son, but as soon as she entered, she saw an empty room with nothing in it. Soo-hyun opened the closet her son had used and looked at the neatly arranged clothes inside, as if her son had never died. At this moment, she couldn't hold back anymore and burst into tears. The next day, Soo-hyun woke up on the ground. When she adjusted her mood and was about to leave, the door closed with the sound of a lock. Only then did she know for sure that she had locked the door on the day of the incident, because she had heard the same sound. At this moment, psychology professor Si-ra called. Si-ra had found the boy's address, so Soo-hyun used the address given to find the boy's residence, but unfortunately, the boy had gone out to work and wasn't home. On the other hand, Seon-yul was following Counselor Choi to a heavily guarded villa in the mountains. Until late at night, Seon-yul secretly took pictures of the evidence of these people's debauchery. After returning to work, Seon-yul was treating his wounds when he suddenly met Soo-hyun. As soon as they met, they both recognized each other as the person they met at the cemetery that day, so they weren't too awkward or unfamiliar. But Soo-hyun still didn't know where to start talking. First, she took out the apology letters that Hyung-ja had written over the years and gave them to Seon-yul. Then, she told him how guilty Hyung-ja felt and how she wanted to make up for her mistakes. However, Seon-yul didn't want to hear much more, because after losing his parents, his life had been extremely miserable. Moreover, he believed that apologies couldn't bring the dead back to life. Seon-yul asked Soo-hyun if her actions now meant to her or not. Then, he stood up and left without waiting for Soo-hyun's response. After returning home, Soo-hyun remembers the promise she made to Hyung-ja when she was alive, so every morning, she stood in front of Seon-yul's house. She waited until he returned home safely and returned to her room to rest. She repeated this action for several days in a row. During that time, she did not disturb Seon-yul's life, but only protected him like a family member. That night, Soo-hyun waited for a long time but did not see Seon-yul return home. Just as she was confused and preparing to leave, she suddenly discovered a traffic accident ahead, and Seon-yul was searching for his mother's belongings, but the police insisted on taking him back for investigation. After Seon-yul finished giving her statement and was about to look for his mother's belongings, he discovered that Soo-hyun had already found them. Her shoes were covered in mud. Seon-yul took back the belongings without saying a word. On the contrary, Soo-hyun told Seon-yul that she had suffered the same pain as him. She had lost her most precious son. She wanted the murderer to apologize to her son. Even though she couldn't forgive, that pain could be gradually forgotten. Soo-hyun hoped that Seon-yul could continue to live a good life. It was for this purpose that she came to find Seon-yul, but it seemed that Soo-hyun was wrong and unintentionally increased the pain in Seon-yul's heart. After Soo-hyun left, Seon-yul opened the note that was clipped to his mother's relic. On it was Soo-hyun's phone number. On the other hand, didn't know why Soo-ho became a famous journalist throughout Korea. That night, when he left his old house, he accidentally met Soo-hyun. Meeting again after 6 years, Soo-hyun was extremely agitated. Soo-ho just wanted to wipe the tears on her face for her, but she refused. Because in Soo-hyun's perception, she was the one who ruined Soo-ho's future. So she hoped that he would forget her and go get to know more outstanding people. However, Soo-ho said that he had tried, but he still could not be so heartless, unable to forget the wife who had lived with him for so many years. And he knew that Soo-hyun's words were not sincere. Soo-ho also said that this time he would never leave her. Soo-hyun was deeply touched by Soo-ho's sincerity. She also decided to start a new life with him. The next day, Soo-ho took Soo-hyun home. Myung-hee's attitude towards Soo-hyun seemed to have changed. She hugged Soo-hyun in front of her son, comforting her for having suffered a lot during this time. During dinner, she also kindly gave Soo-hyun her favorite dishes. However, after dinner, Myung-hee's mother-in-law called Soo-hyun aside and warned her not to misunderstand. She did not accept her and even put all the responsibility for her grandchild's death on Soo-hyun. She believed that if she had not come home that day, the tragedy would definitely not have happened. Now, a murderous woman intends to hold on to her son. As a mother, Myung-hee hates Soo-hyun very much. She even bluntly said that if Soo-ho doesn't beg, she definitely won't give in. So she hopes that Soo-hyun will know her place. After listening to Myung-hee's teachings, Soo-hyun collapsed to the point of almost being unable to breathe. That night, Soo-ho comforted Soo-hyun, thanking her for accepting him again. Then, he took out a gift and mentioned the vows they made when they got married. No matter poverty or illness, he would overcome it with her. But the two of them had been apart for too long, so Soo-ho wanted to propose to Soo-hyun again. He thanked her for accepting to come back to his side and continue their current life. Soo-hyun was touched by Soo-ho's words and mistakenly thought that she could really trust him for the rest of her life. Little did they know that their conversation was overheard by a guy wearing sneakers. Soo-hyun and Soo-ho returned to their old house and coincidentally met the neighbors, were a mother and son. Soo-ho looked quite frightened. He immediately pulled Soo-hyun inside and said goodbye to the mother and son. However, this neighbor Hae-rom was not simple. 1. She knew the truth about Soo-hyun's son's death. 2. She was related to Soo-ho. On the other hand, the guy wearing sneakers investigated Soo-hyun's network of relationships, which included Soo-ho and Yoo-ri. The guy wearing sneakers put the photo in a document bag, preparing to send it to Soo-hyun. The next day, the couple participated in a TV interview together. At the same time, the guy wearing sneakers gave the document bag to the staff. The staff put the document bag in the break room. During the interview, Soo-ho was worried that Soo-hyun would be heartbroken, so he held her hand tightly. He said that during this time, she had experienced the pain of losing her child, hoping that everyone could understand Soo-hyun's feelings. After the interview, Soo-ho stayed behind to thank the staff for their hard work. Soo-hyun returned to the break room alone. As soon as she sat down, she saw a bag of documents addressed to her on the table. What was inside the bag shocked her. Her husband, who seemed to be caring and loving towards her, was actually having an affair with someone else. This completely shattered Soo-hyun's perception. It turned out that the guy wearing sneakers was the son of the driver who was killed by Soo-hyun. After receiving the photo, Soo-hyun began to distance herself from Soo-ho. She didn't know how to look at their current relationship. At that moment, Soo-hyun's mother and younger sister came to visit. It just so happened that it eased her confusion. Yoo-ri seemed to be very close to Soo-ho. Of course, Soo-hyun also noticed that, but she simply thought that it was just a family relationship. The story of Soo-ho having a lover that night kept appearing in Soo-hyun's mind. Early the next morning, Soo-ho diligently cooked Soo-hyun a bowl of porridge. Meanwhile, Yoo-ri felt that something was wrong with her sister because there was no reply to the message she sent. Plus, the fact that her sister had left in a hurry last night made Yoo-ri even more confused. At the same time, Soo-hyun, based on the date on the photo, confirmed that the time the photo was taken was the day she decided to divorce Soo-ho while serving her sentence and asked Yoo-ri to send Soo-ho a divorce petition. But Soo-hyun still couldn't figure out who sent these photos to her. After that, she asked the TV station's staff if they remembered who sent them. Because the interview day was quite busy, the staff only remembered that the other party was a man. Coincidentally, Seon-yul also received an invitation to come here. He glanced at the photo and knew that it was taken with a camera using Cinema 800 to enhance the color negative film. The person who took this photo was a professional. Soo-hyun was about to go home. The passers-by around recognized her. They all tried to avoid her. The neighbor Hae-rom was also there, but she didn't pay any attention to other people's eyes and insisted on taking Soo-hyun home. Moreover, she was very enthusiastic in pulling Soo-hyun away. It turned out that Hae-rom's son had epilepsy. Every time he had an attack, he would foam at the mouth. Only Soo-hyun's son didn't criticize Hae-rom's son at all and always cheered and encouraged him. Only later did Hae-rom discover that the words Gunwoo said were all taught to her by Soo-hyun. So Hae-rom was not worried that she would be gossiped about when she was close to Soo-hyun. This could also be considered a kind of thank you. After all, Hae-rom thought that Soo-hyun was a good mother. After returning home, Soo-hyun frankly told Soo-ho about the photo. She wanted to hear her husband's explanation. The moment Soo-ho saw the photo, he looked very nervous. After picking up the photo and observing it carefully, he was able to breathe a little sigh of relief. Actually, before, Soo-hyun had also also thought that if her husband left, he would probably like someone else. Otherwise, she would not have filed for divorce in the first place. Suho admitted that it was a mistake to look for a third person, but he had no intention of doing anything to the other person. He had even forgotten about that person's existence. Suhyun said that she could understand. Everything was over. She wouldn't pursue it anymore, because the two of them had agreed to start over. But there was one thing Suhyun wanted to clarify. Since this image had been sent to the TV station, did Suho feel that anyone was suspicious? Suho thought for a moment and said no. The next day, Suho used his position to get the surveillance video. Although he had captured the figure of the person who had sent the photo, he couldn't see the person's face clearly. On this side, Suhyun asked Yuri out. Suhyun frankly said that it was true that she had asked Yuri to deliver the divorce papers at first. She wanted to give up Suho, but when Suho actually dated someone else, she felt sad. But unexpectedly, Yuri's reaction was fear, not surprise. She was eager to know what Suhyun meant by what she said. Suhyun slowly turned around, clearly stating each word to Yuri. Suho dated another woman. Someone sent her photo evidence. Yuri hesitantly asked Suhyun if she knew who the other person was. Suhyun said that she didn't take a picture of the person's face. Suhyun felt that it was also good. If she saw the other person's appearance, she would probably never forget it for the rest of her life. But there was one thing Suhyun couldn't understand. Who sent the photo? The sender seemed to care about the woman very much. After hearing this, Yuri advised Suhyun to forget about it and start a new life. At that moment, Yuri received a phone call and hurriedly left. Suhyun coldly looked in the direction Yuri was leaving. That afternoon, Suho secretly called the woman to confirm whether she was the one who sent the photo. After that, the two agreed to meet at the hotel to discuss the details. At the same time, Seon-yul found out who sent the photo. He was the son of the driver who caused the accident. It turned out that Soo-jin, Seon-yul's friend, was a hacker. Soo-jin helped Seon-yul complete many tracking missions. On this side, Soo-hyun called Suho to discuss things. However, he used the excuse of going to a meeting to have an affair. Coincidentally, as he drove away, Soo-hyun was standing by the roadside and saw him. Soo-hyun was confused about what Suho was trying to hide, so she immediately called a taxi and followed him, arriving at a remote hotel by the river. Soo-hyun clearly saw her husband going through the emergency exit instead of the usual elevator or stairs. She thought for a moment and then followed him, but at a corner, she could only see Suho's silhouette through the reflection mirror. At this moment, the door slowly opened. What no one expected was that the person who opened the door turned out to be Hi-Rome. The moment she saw this girl appear, Soo-hyun was extremely shocked. She stood in front of the door for a long time, thinking whether she should rush in or not. But she couldn't help but think back to her cheating husband and the neighbors who kept saying they wanted to repay her. When she came to her senses, she straightly left the hotel. Soo-hyun stood in the outdoor parking lot until it got dark. During this time, she kept thinking about how to solve this problem. Finally, she decided to clarify what she saw. Soon after, Suho received a text message from Soo-hyun. The text message said that she now knew who he was with. After reading it, he was extremely worried. He immediately rushed out of the room. Then, he drove home to look for Soo-hyun from room to room, but he couldn't find her anywhere, and she didn't answer the phone. In fact, Soo-hyun had heard the ringtone. She knew it was Suho, and he had already returned home. At this time, she was just about to return to the villa, but as soon as she reached the door, she immediately discovered that Suho's car was exactly the same as Hi-Rome's. Finally, she realized how stupid she was, so she turned around and headed towards Hi-Rome's house. Soo-hyun asked Suho frankly why he came to the hotel just now. Then, she took out the photo and asked if the person on it was Hi-Rome. However, Hi-Rome neither admitted nor denied it, but kept apologizing. She said that when Soo-hyun was in prison, the two met many times at the cemetery. Hi-Rome shouldn't let that feeling grow deeper. The confession basically matched Suho's. Soo-hyun wanted to know if the photo was sent by Hi-Rome. She immediately denied it and apologized again. Soo-hyun didn't get the answer she wanted, so she slammed the door and left. Hi-Rome's face was full of shame. Soo-hyun returned home without paying any attention to Suho. She went straight to the second floor, but of course, Suho would try his best to explain. He hoped to talk to his wife properly. He admitted everything was wrong and kept asking Soo-hyun for forgiveness. He didn't confess because he was afraid of losing Soo-hyun, but Soo-hyun thought that no matter what, that person couldn't be Hi-Rome. Even if he wanted her to give in, this couldn't continue. She didn't know who sent her the photo. After hearing this, Suho guessed that someone must be trying to harm him. However, Soo-hyun was extremely disappointed. She didn't want the two of them to continue hurting her family, so she decided to go back to her mother's house to live for a while. After Soo-hyun left, Suho's expression changed from guilt to anger. Soo-hyun promised her mother that she would definitely find the person who sent this photo, but Go-eun grabbed her hand tightly. She thought that doing so would only cause more trouble. On the contrary, it would be in line with the bad guy's intentions. She just hoped that her daughter could let go of the past and live a good life. That night, Soo-hyun tore the photo into small pieces. As for Suho, he went to a hidden gold recycling store early in the morning. He hired a retired policeman to investigate the courier who took the photo. Back at the TV station, Kim Jun was waiting for Suho in the office. He accidentally mentioned the interview between the couple and said that the relationship between the two of them looked as good as ever. This sentence aroused Suho's suspicion. He said that his wife had received a rather bad gift. If he found out that Kim Joon had done it, Kim Joon would definitely pay a heavy price. However, this reckless behavior successfully aroused Kim Joon's interest. He ordered his secretary to keep a close eye on Suho. On the other hand, after hearing what the mother said, Suhan tore up the photo, intending to live a good life. But when she cleaned her room, she stared at the pieces in the trash can. The question in her heart still could not be resolved. After all, who sent the photo, and what was the purpose of that person doing so? So she put the pieces together again. Unexpectedly, she discovered that there was a link on the back of the photo. Suhan clearly remembered that the back of the photo sent to her did not have this at all. She figured that whoever sent the photo must have been hiding some important information, so she immediately sat down at the computer and entered the website address. What appeared was an article from a few years ago. The article was about a 40-year-old woman who was seriously injured after being hit by a truck. Obviously, the content and the photo had nothing to do with each other, but Suhan realized that the article was written by a journalist named Mira. First, she asked around and got Mira's email address. Then, she used the method of leaving a message via email to find out the news of that year's incident and asked Mira to contact her again. At the same time, Myung-hee called Soo-hyun to go shopping. Once, she went all morning without caring whether her daughter-in-law liked it or not, and insisted on buying her a lot of unused things. Then, when the two of them went to the break room, she revealed her true purpose. It turned out that Myung-hee had heard that Soo-hyun had returned to her mother's house. She was worried that the news of the couple's discord would spread and affect Suho's future, so she wanted to warn Soo-hyun. If she decided to endure and accept the past, she should at least pretend to have some responsibility. It turned out that Myung-hee bought things for Soo-hyun as an apology on Suho's behalf, but her attitude was completely opposite. She said that she wouldn't ask what happened between the couple, but she hoped that Soo-hyun's stupid actions would stop here. At the same time, she reminded Soo-hyun to manage her emotions well when she was out. How could Myung-hee not know what Suho had done? Moreover, when Soo-hyun had just reconciled with Suho, Myung-hee did not hesitate to warn and criticize her. Now that Suho had reached the boundary of morality, she started to lecture someone who was not at fault in this matter. That night, Go-eun sent a text message to Soo-hyun. She lied that she was going out with some friends and would be home late. In fact, she was worried that if she went home, her daughter would be even sadder, so she decided to stay at the shop. But when Soo-hyun received her mother's message, she immediately understood her mother's heart and intentions, so she couldn't hold back and burst into tears. Just then, Yuri saw this scene when she came home from work. After finding out the situation, she angrily blocked Suho's car. Yuri asked him why he had had an affair with Hye-rom, and the scene of them talking to each other was seen by Hye-rom. The next day, journalist Mira contacted Soo-hyun. As for the details related to the article, Mira thought it would be better not to know, but under Soo-hyun's continuous questions, Mira still told the content of the article. It turned out that the woman who had been hit by the car was named Un-soo. She was being treated at the hospital where Soo-hyun's younger brother-in-law worked. Therefore, Soo-hyun immediately contacted her younger brother-in-law Tae-ho, asking Tae-ho to find out which hospital room Un-soo was in. At the same time, Soo-jin, Son-yul's best friend, investigated and found out that the guy in the picture was addicted to gambling. He often went to casinos to gamble, so Son-yul blocked the young man's way and caused an unexpected accident. The two of them jumped from the third floor one after another. Unfortunately, the young man was seriously injured. After the jump, Son-yul immediately took the young man to the hospital. On this side, with the help of Tae-ho, Soo-hyun entered Un-soo's hospital room, and she was the wife of the driver that Soo-hyun had killed. At this moment, Son-yul also entered. It turned out that Son-yul had been taken to the hospital, but the injury was so serious that the doctor could only operate if there was a confirmation signature from the family. So Son-yul signed on behalf of the family, then entered Un-soo's hospital room to make it seem like he was the young man's family. Then, he coincidentally met Soo-hyun there. Soo-hyun looked confused and asked Son-yul why he had come here. At that moment, Un-soo suddenly faced a critical emergency. Son-yul immediately rushed to provide first aid, but the scene before Soo-hyun's eyes triggered the pain of seeing her son on the brink of death. Fortunately, the doctor arrived in time to save Un-soo from danger. After this incident, Soo-hyun asked Son-yul why he had been so agitated earlier. Son-yul replied that it was because he didn't want to see anyone die. But after answering, Son-yul looked very angry and immediately left the hospital. Here, Soo-hyun accidentally learned that Son-yul and his friend Soo-jin both had heart disease. The two of them had met at this hospital. Soo-hyun thought until dawn. She still did not understand the intention of the person who sent the photo when leaving the link to the article behind the photo. She carefully read the article about the accident again, suddenly remembering what Mira said. This accident did not seem to be accidental. So Soo-hyun immediately drove to the scene of the crime. Because the road here was winding, most pedestrians crossed the road at the intersection. In addition, Soo-hyun noticed that this road had a speed limit of 30 kilometers per hour. After that, she asked her friends to investigate the verdict of the case. On the other hand, Suho went to Go-eun and frankly admitted the mistakes he had made, hoping that she could give him another chance. That sincere look was seen by Soo-hyun when he returned home. So the next day, the couple made up again. That morning, the verdict of the case was sent. The report stated that the speed of the driver who caused the accident was 115 kilometers per hour. After investigating clearly, Eventually, Soo-hyun called the reporter Mi-ra to ask the other party. At that time, did the driver not know the speed limit on the road? And what did the phrase, "not like an accident" mean? Mi-ra said that the driver lived nearby, so there was no way he did not know the speed limit on that road. On this side, Taeho always felt like he had met Seon-yul somewhere before, but he couldn't remember at the moment. At this time, Taeho happened to meet a girl with a heart condition, so he immediately remembered who Seon-yul was. He quickly called Soo-hyun, but at that time, Soo-hyun was sitting in Eun-soo's hospital room. The phone was on mute mode, so she missed the call. When she saw the missed call and was about to call back, she happened to see Seon-yul running into the hospital. Before she could say anything, she hung up and chased after him. It turned out that the casino thugs had found the hospital where the young man was staying. Because the young man owed 3,000 won, they planned to take his organs to pay the debt. After hearing the news, Seon-yul immediately ran over and started fighting with the thugs. Just then, Soo-hyun arrived later and saw them. Fortunately, the security guard arrived in time and chased the thugs away. Soo-hyun thought that Seon-yul shouldn't live like that. At least, Seon-yul's parents didn't want their son to do such things. But Seon-yul got angry and asked her what right she had to say such things. That night, Soo-hyun brought Seon-yul some rice. She still couldn't understand Seon-yul's behavior of beating someone. Seon-yul explained that he had received too much help from Soo-hyun, so he wanted to do something to help her. In the end, the misunderstanding between the two was resolved. After that, Seon-yul lit a fire. The two sat next to each other and talked a lot. Seon-yul asked Soo-hyun if she wanted to meet Eun-soo's son. Soo-hyun thought for a while and finally chose no. What she wanted to do now was how to ease Eun-soo's pain. A moment later, Seon-yul received a call from the secretary. It turned out that because Kim Jun wanted to get more votes, he wanted to investigate the person who received the most female votes, Soo-ho. But who would have thought that the scene of the two meeting would be seen by former detective Han Sang? The next day, Soo-ho asked for half a day off and took Soo-hyun to a high-class restaurant. Seeing the chef perform a fiery cooking performance, Soo-hyun realized that Seon-yul's condition and the child who was saved from the fire that year were not the same. First of all, Seon-yul did not have any burn scars on body. Second, the psychology professor once said that the boy was afraid of fire, but Seon-yul was not afraid of fire at all. On this side, Seon-yul went to Eun-soo's room, quietly sat by her bedside, and held her hand tightly. It turned out that Seon-yul was Eun-soo's real son. The one whose family had died at such a young age was Min-hyuk. Seon-yul sent the diary filled with Hungja's apology to Min-hyuk. Seon-yul said that for some personal reasons, he could borrow it for a bit. It turned out that Seon-yul was the son of the driver who had killed Soo-hyun's son. Because the hit-and-run incident had been heavily publicized, on the day of his father's funeral, the furiously angry netizens had smashed the funeral. Eun-soo had hugged her son tightly, not allowing him to go out and reason with those netizens. Of course, no one had come to the funeral until the end, but this had only been the beginning of those painful months. Everyone had called Seon-yul the son of a murderer, and they had often bullied Seon-yul at school, and that was when the feelings of hatred had appeared. That's why Seon-yul had always tried her best to approach Soo-hyun. On this side, Soo-hyun and her husband had been on their way to dinner when they had happened to meet the psychology professor who had given Soo-hyun's address to Seon-yul. The professor had been especially concerned about whether Soo-hyun had found anything and whether she had given him the notebook. After listening, the more Soo-hyun had thought about it, the more she had felt like something was wrong. First of all, Seon-yul hadn't been afraid of fire. Second, there had been no scar on the back. Logically speaking, the person who had been pulled out couldn't have been Seon-yul. Then why had the psychology professor sent her Seon-yul's address? The most important thing was that she had clearly never mentioned the diary. How could the psychology professor have been sane? Soo-hyun couldn't stand it. At that moment, Seon-yul had called, but she hadn't answered, and she had become more and more curious about this guy's life. Early that morning, Seon-yul had followed Soo-ho to a restaurant and accidentally taken a photo of Soo-ho meeting someone. It was the former detective Han Sang who was investigating Kim Jun's secretary. Han Sang accidentally took a photo of Seon-yul. However, the two of them did not know that Soo-hyun was related to Seon-yul. Soo-ho suspected that the photos he received were sent by Seon-yul. Sure enough, he guessed correctly. At the same time, Soo-hyun arrived at the temple where the ashes of the couple who were burned to death were kept. She saw a family photo of 3 people placed on it. Soo-hyun accidentally remembered when she had just been released from prison and went to her son's grave. At that time, Seon-yul was also right next to her, seemingly worshipping someone. Could it be that a relative was buried there? Before she could think, Seon-yul called Soo-hyun to invite her to lunch together, and the location was Soo-hyun's mother's restaurant. As soon as she heard this, she understood what was going on. However, Seon-yul did not wait for Soo-hyun. After paying, he stood up and left the restaurant. On this side, Kim Jun wanted to get more votes, so he persuaded Soo-ho to join his side. However, Soo-ho hated Kim Jun so much that he left without saying anything. It turned out that Soo-ho believed that without Kim Jun, the irresponsible driver would not have been released, and Soo-hyun's incident would not have happened. Therefore, during the years Soo-ho was abroad, he had grasped Kim Jun's weakness. Kim Jun had an illegitimate child. That year, someone made a big fuss about Seon-yul's father's funeral. Kim Jun not only appeared in time to stop it, but also personally expressed his condolences to Seon-yul's father. In addition, he also told Seon-yul that he would be Seon-yul's father in the future. This sent sentence deeply moved Son-yul, so he worked for Kim Jun, regardless. After the two met at a small restaurant, Kim Jun outwardly convinced Son-yul to return to medical school. It would make Eun-soo, who was lying in the hospital bed, proud. But in reality, he wanted Son-yul to continue working until he was elected president. But he said that as long as he became president, he would definitely reopen the case on behalf of Son-yul's father. Those righteous lies moved Son-yul deeply. At the same time, Soo-hyun went to the car factory where Son-yul was working and found something important. On this side, Yoo-ri was a little worried, accidentally remembering the conversation between her and Soo-ho that night. It seemed like there was a secret between them that couldn't be told. Soo-hyun kept thinking about why the photo didn't show the frontal image of the woman who had an affair with Soo-ho. The next day, journalist Mi-ra sent a message. Mi-ra contacted the person in charge of Yoon-soo's accident that year. Immediately after, Soo-hyun made an appointment to meet this police officer. However, he remembered that there were no witnesses at that time, so the case was quickly closed. As for the driver who caused the accident, he didn't know either. He only remembered that their whole family had moved to another place. The victim's son posted many distress messages. After Soo-hyun returned home, she searched for distress messages online. One comment caught her attention. The comment indicated that the poster was a classmate from medical school. Soo-hyun immediately remembered the way Son-yul tried to save Eun-soo when she was on her deathbed that day. It was obvious that Son-yul was someone who was knowledgeable about medicine or had studied medicine, so she went to Taeho to ask about Son-yul. It just so happened that Taeho also wanted to contact Soo-hyun about this. Son-yul was Taeho's medical school classmate and had undergone 3 heart surgeries. After hearing the news, Soo-hyun went to the medical school. On the public wall of the campus, she discovered Son-yul's true identity. Not long after, Son-yul received a message from Soo-hyun asking for a meeting. Son-yul immediately understood that Soo-hyun knew his true identity. Son-yul had been looking forward to this day for a long time. It turned out that on the day Soo-hyun was tried, Son-yul was also present in court. When he heard her say that if she could choose again, she would still do the same. Son-yul hated that he couldn't avenge his father right away. But Soo-hyun was sentenced to 10 years in prison, so Son-yul didn't have any chance. Therefore, during these 10 years, Son-yul worked as a volunteer and was able to go in prison. Son-yul thought of every way to get to know Soo-hyun. Finally, after bribing the prison guard, Son-yul learned a piece of news. Soo-hyun had a very good relationship with Hyun-ja in prison. After that, Son-yul planned his revenge. Until the day his father's killer was released from prison, Son-yul had always followed Soo-hyun. He even created a surprise meeting and helped her shelter from the rain. The guy wearing sneakers who eavesdropped on the conversation between the couple was also Son-yul. In addition, Son-yul often went to Soo-hyun's mother's restaurant and sat there. The reason Son-yul did so was because he wanted to take away everything that Soo-hyun treasured. It turned out that when Soo-hyun entered the auto repair shop, she found the necklace that Son-yul's mother left behind. Inside the necklace was a picture of the child, exactly like the picture on the wall of the medical school. Only then did she know that Son-yul was the son of the driver who killed her child. After the two met, Soo-hyun said that she didn't care how Son-yul treated her, but she didn't accept Son-yul harming her family. After the negotiation ended, Soo-hyun thought that she would be able to live in peace, but she didn't know that what Son-yul wanted was seeing her family destroyed. Therefore, Son-yul had always been waiting for Soo-hyun to be immersed in happiness once again. That afternoon, Son-yul went to the gallery opened by Hi-rom. At this time, Hi-rom was introducing the painting. It was a painting that told a story in which the main character was betrayed by 2 relatives and eventually killed his wife. After introducing it, Hi-rom gave Son-yul a painting, asking him to send it to Kim Jun. In fact, the gallery was a money laundering place for Kim Jun to raise funds for the election. Son-yul did not completely listen to him on the surface. After receiving the painting, he immediately gave it to Soo-jin. Soo-jin found the USB drive hidden in the painting, then copied the evidence of Kim Jun's crime. After doing everything, Soo-jin handed the painting to Kim Jun. On this side, former detective Han San had investigated something. That was, Soo-hyun and Son-yul had met. As soon as he got home, Soo-ho found a reason to ask his wife why she went to see Son-yul. Soo-hyun lied that Son-yul was the lucky child who escaped the fire. After listening, Soo-ho told her not to go see him again. Otherwise, it would create rumors and have a bad influence. After saying that, he immediately entered the office. After searching for news related to the fire, Soo-ho could almost confirm that his wife was lying. The next day, when Soo-hyun went to visit Taeho, she happened to see Kim Jun donating money to the hospital. Soo-hyun and Taeho sat down to chat. Taeho told her that Eun-soo's medical expenses were all paid for by the charity fund. After hearing that, Soo-hyun immediately thought that the person in charge of the fund was Kim Jun, the one who donated earlier. So she started to pay attention to him and followed him until she returned to the villa. Soo-hyun accidentally saw Kim Jun entering Hi-rom's house. It turned out that Hi-rom was not only his concubine, but also the person in charge of laundering money for him. Early the next morning, Soo-ho was about to go to work when he noticed a man doing something near his car. The man explained that a few days ago his car had been involved in an accident in front of Soo-ho's car, so he wanted to confirm whether the black box in Soo-ho's car recorded that scene or not. Soo-ho was also in a hurry to go to work, so he gave the memory card to Soo-hyun and left. For the convenience of contact, the man wrote down the date and phone number number of the accident. The two agreed to reply immediately after reviewing it. After Soo-hyun entered the house, she opened the driver's record by day. She looked through it all but found that there was no car accident, so she contacted the man again. His phone number was written on the picture. It turned out that this man was sent by Seon-yul. There was no car accident, but Seon-yul just wanted to remind that there was something Soo-hyun needed to see that day. Suddenly, there was a loud noise outside. Soo-hyun turned around to take a look and ran outside. It turned out that Hye-rom's son was sick, but no one dared to step forward to help. Soo-hyun immediately gave the boy first aid. At that moment, Hye-rom also returned. Only then was the boy safe and sound. While Hye-rom was letting her son rest in the room, Soo-hyun discovered that the date was also written on the glass of water in the living room. The time exactly matched the photo of Soo-ho cheating. During this time, Hye-rom was abroad. In other words, the woman in the photo was not her. Hye-rom knew that she had been exposed, so she knelt down and admitted that she had lied. She did this all to protect her son. It turned out that Soo-ho had come to Hye-rom beforehand. He made it clear that he knew that Hye-rom was Kim Jun's concubine. Soo-ho hoped that Hye-rom could cooperate with him to expose Kim Jun's evil nature. If he were to become president, he would definitely not let Hye-rom and his illegitimate son go. In the end, Soo-ho promises to protect the son and Hye-rom. In return, Hye-rom has to act out a play. That night, Soo-hyun dialed a phone number. She found out that the painting was by Francesca de Polo, and it was about a person who was betrayed by two people this person loved. She suddenly remembered the man who asked for help that morning that she met at Seon-yul's auto repair shop. That is, Seon-yul wanted her to see the driving record that day. While thinking about this, Soo-hyun's mother suddenly called and asked her to come to Yuri's shop. When Soo-hyun arrived at the shop, there were customers, so she entered the office. But she was always worried about what the black box had recorded, so she used Yuri's computer to check. On the other hand, Yuri's biological mother came to find her. The mother's job was to work as a prostitute in the bar. When Yuri was young, the mother often beat her. At the same time, Soo-hyun saw a shocking scene. Soo-ho's lover was Yuri. Seon-yul was sitting outside, admiring everything that was happening in the store. Yuri's biological mother came to her daughter and secretly gave her a photo. Furthermore, she said that Yuri must have inherited something from her. Then, she turned back to remind Go-eun that she had to be careful in everything she did. It would be heartbreaking to be betrayed by the person she trusted the most. After saying that, Yuri's biological mother left the store. Yuri seemed to understand something, and for a long time she still couldn't calm down. It turned out that Seon-yul had asked Yuri's biological mother to say these words. The purpose was to witness Soo-hyun's family falling into pain and unhappiness. On the other side, looking at Yuri lying in her mother's arms sobbing, Soo-hyun now knew the truth and was extremely angry. First, she found a reason for her mother to go home first. Then, she frankly told Yuri that she had known everything. In this life, Soo-hyun could never forgive Yuri for her actions. Soo-hyun begged Yuri not to expect her to forgive her in the future. Before she could finish her sentence, she angrily left. Soo-hyun sat in the car and cried. She did not expect that the two people closest to her would betray her. At the same time, Soo-ho received a notification that Soo-hyun had already known who the woman in the photo was. He deeply regretted what he had done. As soon as Soo-ho entered the living room, he saw that Soo-hyun had taken down the wedding photo and thrown it on the ground. She did not understand why he still came to her, even though she had rejected him. Even if they were divorced, the two of them should not have done that. Moreover, she had just lost her child and was in prison. What hurt Soo-hyun was not Soo-ho's adultery, but the fact that her husband and younger sister had an affair. On top of that, she did not know anything and still trusted and loved the two of them. Without saying a word, Soo-ho knelt down in front of his wife. Soo-hyun informed Soo-ho that he was no longer her man. At this moment, the relationship between the two had completely broken down. Returning to the bedroom, Soo-hyun's mind unconsciously recalled every moment with Soo-ho and the intimate scene between him and Yuri. That feeling of separation was painful. At first, when Soo-hyun went to jail because she didn't want to implicate her husband, she firmly filed for divorce from him. Yuri, worried about her brother-in-law, ran to comfort him. As a result, the two drank too much and did something wrong to Soo-hyun. Although Yuri regretted it the next morning, the truth could no longer be changed. The next day, Soo-hyun went to see Yuri's biological mother. She asked her how she knew where Yuri was working. She didn't bother to hide it and frankly said that someone told her. Hearing that, Soo-hyun turned around and left because she had guessed that the mastermind behind it must be Seon-yul. That night, Soo-ho took the initiative to look for Seon-yul, hoping that he could forgive Soo-hyun. He said that if you want revenge, just target him. Whatever the request, he will do it. Just let the anger and hatred be directed at him. Because in Seon-yul's world, the pain Soo-hyun had to endure was much less than his. Now, besides Soo-hyun, who had lost two relatives, there was only one person left. On the other hand, Soo-hyun had made an appointment to meet Yuri. After careful consideration, Soo-hyun forgave her younger sister because she didn't want her mother to be sad when she found out about this. So, she chose to forgive. At the same time, Seon-yul carried an envelope and entered Soo-hyun's mother's restaurant. After making peace with the younger sister, Soo-hyun couldn't call her mother. When she rushed to her mother's restaurant, the neighbors were gathering to clean up the food on the floor. They said that they didn't know where Soo-hyun's mother had gone. Only the door was wide open. The ground was also very messy. Soo-hyun called her mother's phone number again. On the other end of the line was Seon-yul's voice. Soo-hyun rushed to the hospital. hospital. Coincidentally, Taeho took over. He said that Soo-hyun's mother was in stable condition, just a slight concussion. Obviously, this action of Son-yul had reached Soo-hyun's limit. She immediately called Yuri to take care of mother and hurriedly left the hospital. When Son-yul was driving home, Soo-hyun suddenly appeared in front of the car. The two faced each other for about 10 seconds. Son-yul suddenly stepped on the gas and drove straight with eyes filled with hatred. He ran straight towards Soo-hyun, wanting to recreate the moment when she stabbed his father to death. But in the end, Son-yul stopped in front of Soo-hyun. Son-yul thought that death was not enough for Soo-hyun to make up for his pain. At this time, Soo-hyun said that Son-yul's mother's coma was not an accident, but a premeditated case. She hoped that Son-yul would not be taken advantage of by evil people because of hatred. After returning home, Son-yul was again in a state of confusion. In fact, he himself knew very well that his mother had not been in a car accident by chance. Son-yul was also collecting evidence and investigating clues, but over the years, he had not found anything. At the same time, Suho cooperated with Hi-rom, preparing carefully to defeat Kim Jun. For a long time, they had conducted many investigations and collected evidence. Moreover, Hi-rom was Kim Jun's concubine, and in her hands, she held the secret and evidence of his corruption. They had planned to invite Hi-rom to expose Kim Jun's true nature in the main show, reveal it to the public, and take advantage of public opinion to defeat Kim Jun. However, the plan was not so easy to succeed. The three of them had never expected that Son-yul, wanting revenge, had taken pictures of them working together and told Kim Jun before the show started. At the same time, Kim Jun had also gotten pictures of Suho cheating with Yuri. Before the show started, Suho had already been caught by Kim Jun. Hi-rom, who was in the middle of the road, was also surrounded by Kim Jun's men. The originally perfect plan had completely failed. Kim Jun even received more votes from the people through his performance. Afterwards, Kim Jun called Hi-rom, threatening her that if she dared to do something stupid again, she would never have the hope to see her son again. Although the boy was also his illegitimate child, in order to be able to step up to a higher position, he could even abandon his son. At the same time, through this, Son-yul also received Kim Jun's absolute trust. He brought Son-yul to the powerful class, where he was the center. Here, there were very good lawyers who specialized in defending complicated cases, a judge who held the power of life and death in his hands, and a powerful prosecutor. After these people came together, they were able to sentence the man who had intentionally stabbed a 7-year-old child to probation, and that person was Son-yul's father. But in heart, Son-yul also knew that his father would absolutely never do such an irresponsible thing like causing an accident and running away. However, Son-yul could not find the mastermind. Therefore, Son-yul poured all his hatred onto Soo-hyun. The next morning, Suho's mother accidentally heard a rumor from a friend. The rumor said that someone saw Suho kneeling in front of his wife. It seemed that Suho and Yuri were secretly having an affair. Myung-hee immediately burst out laughing. She said that Soo-hyun and Yuri grew up together like real sisters. How could this happen? But then, she hurriedly contacted her son. Seeing Suho's silence, she knew the rumor was true. However, her first thought was not to blame her son, but to ask Suho to quickly divorce Soo-hyun. Not long after, Soo-hyun's mother finally woke up. She was in pain, feeling that her daughter was treated unfairly. She had clearly suffered such a great deal of grievance, but every day she had to pretend that nothing had happened in front of her mother. After going out, Soo-hyun met Yuri, who was ashamed and did not dare to enter. Only then did Soo-hyun realize that her mother's fainting was not due to worry, but because her mother had guessed everything from Yuri's expression. Yuri knelt on the ground and kept confessing to her mother. But this time, Go-eun was not easy on her anymore. At first, when Yuri was abused by her biological mother, Go-eun's family kindly adopted her and treated her as their own daughter. Unexpectedly, the person who was raised for 20 years ended up being ungrateful. Go-eun was merciless and cruelly kicked Yuri out of the house. However, Go-eun could not bear this shock. Just as Son-yul came to take revenge, she collapsed to the ground. Originally intending to use Go-eun to get revenge on Soo-hyun, but in the end, Son-yul couldn't bring himself to do anything to a kind mother. It turned out that Son-yul often came here to eat, and Go-eun also took care of Son-yul like her own child. So Son-yul took Go-eun to the hospital in time. That's why he heard Soo-hyun's phone call to her mother. When Soo-hyun arrived, Son-yul, who was waiting silently, also breathed a sigh of relief. Then, Soo-hyun went to the hospital reception desk. When she checked the registration records, she realized that she had wrongly blamed Son-yul. She discovered that Son-yul was actually not as cruel as she thought. The next day, while Son-yul was working at the auto repair shop, he suddenly received a call from the hospital. Eun-soo, who had been in the hospital for many years, had passed away. Soo-jin helped him organize a simple funeral, but when she sorted out the relics, she found a cell phone in Eun-soo's clothes. On the phone were the words Eun-soo left for her son before she fell into a coma. Son-yul hid in the room and listened all afternoon. Soo-hyun knew about this from Taeho. She changed her clothes and went to the funeral. Son-yul didn't stop her. Before Soo-hyun left, Son-yul pulled her hand. It turned out that Son-yul had heard the recording of his father being stabbed to death by Soo-hyun on the cell phone his mother left behind. At that time, Son-yul's father was talking to his wife on the phone when he unexpectedly met Soo-hyun. Forgot to hang up the phone. Eun-soo also conveniently recorded the call. After knowing that at that time, Soo-hyun only asked for an apology from his father, Son-yul's father arrogantly said said that it was the child who ran into his car. Son Yul's image of a great father suddenly collapsed. At this moment, Son Yul deeply realized how angry Soo-hyun was at that time. Seeing Soo-hyun come to pay respects to his mother, Son Yul originally intended to apologize on behalf of his father, but when facing the person who also killed his father, Son Yul was ultimately unable to say anything. The next day, when Son Yul buried mother, Kim Jun also rushed over. He pretended to comfort Son Yul, but hesitantly asked if Eun-soo had left anything behind before she died. Knowing that Son Yul couldn't see mother for the last time, Kim Jun felt relieved. But he didn't know that Eun-soo's last words about the tablet were heard by Soo-jin. Soo-jin then reported it to Son Yul. Son Yul recalled what Kim Jun asked him this morning. He immediately realized that his mother's car accident was definitely related to Kim Jun. At the same time, Son Yul received a call from Soo-hyun. He asked her to meet him at the place where Son Yul's mother had an accident. It turned out that during the investigation, Soo-hyun had found many important clues. Through the reporter reporting on Eun-soo's car accident, Soo-hyun got a few photos. After that, she went to see a professional traffic accident lawyer. Through the lawyer's assessment of the skid marks in the photos, the driver who caused the accident clearly hit Eun-soo before slamming on the brakes. The entire trajectory of the car was not deviating, proving that the other party's goal was very clear. It was a deliberate murder. There were also witnesses. Before the truck started, it had stopped at the intersection for a long time. Until Eun-soo appeared, the truck started immediately and rushed straight at Eun-soo without hesitation. At this time, Son Yul remembered the time when his mother had an accident. Kim Jun immediately went to the hospital room and said that he would investigate to the end so that the culprit would pay a worthy price. But Son Yul never expected that the next day the police would rule it as a normal traffic accident. The driver who caused the accident only needed to pay a sum of money to be acquitted. By the time Son Yul found the murderer's house, the couple had already moved out that night without knowing that the mastermind of everything was Kim Jun, because Eun-soo knew that the one who stabbed the person to death was Kim Jun. Although Eun-soo's husband took the blame for Kim Jun because of Son Yul's surgery money, Eun-soo's husband actually drove and killed Soo-hyun's child while the child was still breathing. So Eun-soo did not blame Soo-hyun for stabbing her husband to death for revenge. Later, when she heard that Soo-hyun was sentenced to 7 years in prison, Eun-soo called Kim Jun, asking for Soo-hyun to be acquitted as well. Otherwise, she would make everything public. But unexpectedly, Kim Jun had wanted to kill someone long ago, and Eun-soo was hit and knocked to the ground by a truck that had been waiting for a long time in front of Son Yul. Kim Jun pretended that he would try to catch the murderer, but in fact, he had arranged for the murderer to escape long ago. Not long ago, Soo-hyun also found the wife of the driver who stabbed Eun-soo to death through clues and learned everything. Kim Jun himself, using the name of the charity fund, said that he would pay for the surgery for their child so that the driver would stab Eun-soo to death in his place. With these clues, Soo-hyun realized that the reason Kim Jun wanted to kill Eun-soo was definitely because of Son Yul's father. And the most important thing related to Son Yul's father was the death of Soo-hyun's son. It was very possible that her son's death was also related to Kim Jun. The next day, Soo-hyun suddenly remembered that a few days ago, when Soo-ho was packing his luggage, he had secretly hidden a box. She immediately found the box and discovered that Soo-ho had investigated for her son all the people related to her son's case. And in the end, the core clues all pointed to Kim Jun. Soo-hyun immediately sought out Soo-ho to question him. Why did he give up the investigation when he had such important clues? But unexpectedly, Soo-ho gave up the confrontation with the powerful congressman because he was at a disadvantage at first. Soo-hyun couldn't believe that as a father, Soo-ho could give such a reason. If he didn't dare to fight against power, then she could only do it. However, Soo-hyun didn't even expect that as soon as she left Soo-ho's house, Soo-ho contacted Kim Jun. He had sworn to defeat Kim Jun even if he died before, but now he decided to join Kim Jun's alliance to help him sit in the presidential position. The only reason was that Soo-ho also wanted power. The next day, Soo-hyun met Hye-rom in the library. Hye-rom said goodbye to Soo-hyun. She would soon go abroad with her son, but Soo-hyun already knew part of the truth and couldn't understand why a gentle and kind person like Hye-rom would side with the bad guys and help the evil Kim Jun. Moreover, Soo-hyun kindly advised her, for the sake of her own son, Hye-rom should not continue to live like that. But Hye-rom, out of concern for Soo-hyun, also reminded Soo-hyun not to try to go against Kim Jun. This would only bring her harm, but Soo-hyun had put her life and death aside. However, it was this great maternal love that made Hye-rom give Soo-hyun an important clue before leaving. The day Soo-hyun's son passed away, he took a tablet out of the house. This news made Soo-hyun very worried, so she contacted Soo-ho while searching. But suddenly, Soo-hyun remembered what Son Yul had said. Eun-soo's last words also mentioned the tablet, and Soo-hyun's recent call reminded Soo-ho of something. He even left in a hurry despite the fact that the meeting had already started. At the same time, Son Yul also started thinking, what important details did he miss? So Son Yul tried searching on his mother's phone to see if he could find anything else. However, a recording of his father telling his mother to take good care of something reminded Son Yul of the scene from 7 years ago. Eun-soo gave Son Yul a necklace and told him to take good care of it. This made Son Yul immediately realize that the secret item mentioned in his mother's recording was this necklace. At this time, Soo-hyun also knocked on the door. But after Soo-hyun said her guess, this made Son Yul extremely extremely confused. Soo-hyun thought that the tablet that Eun-soo mentioned belonged to her son. Son-yeol also felt a little strange. He took out the necklace and told the whole story and his suspicions. This made Soo-hyun and Son-yeol both turn their eyes to the necklace. The result was as they expected. There was indeed a secret hidden inside. So Son-yeol immediately turned on the computer, inserted the memory card, and read the information inside. The first was the image of a pawn shop. The second was after the tablet was mortgaged and the invoice was issued. Soo-hyun immediately stood up and ran to the pawn shop. Son-yeol also followed closely behind Soo-hyun and successfully blocked her stalker. Soo-hyun successfully retrieved the mortgaged item, and it was indeed the tablet that her son had held on the day of the accident. Holding the tablet in her hand, inside it recorded every bit of her son's growth, making Soo-hyun unable to help but cry. Especially when her son had an accident and recorded a birthday song for his mother, it made Soo-hyun even more heartbroken. But she didn't know what happened that caused the dog to run out of the house, so Gunwoo had to stop recording and chase after the dog. It was also because of this that Gunwoo got into a car accident later. At the same time, Son-yeol had also escaped from his stalker and ran to Soo-hyun's house. Although there was no image on the screen at this time, the sound coming from inside attracted Soo-hyun's attention. Son-yeol felt that this man's voice was too familiar, and Gunwoo didn't seem to be seriously injured. The following conversation between the two men completely broke Soo-hyun. On the day of the incident, Son-yeol's father drank with Kim Jun, but after he received a mysterious phone call regarding his son's life, Seon-yeol's father bid farewell to Kim Jun and rushed to the hospital. Kim Jun, after the party ended, also drove to his lover's place. At the same time, Gunwoo ran out onto the street with a tablet in his hand. Kim Jun had drunk a lot of alcohol before. Furthermore, he was driving without concentration. Thus, the tragedy happened. At first, Kim Jun was extremely panicked, instinctively wanting to call an ambulance, but he hesitated at the last second. He even started to observe if there were any surveillance devices installed around the area. After making sure that the surroundings were safe, Kim Jun picked up Gunwoo and put him in the car. After confirming that there were no witnesses, he quickly drove away from the scene. After that, Soo-hyun found the place where Gunwoo's shoe fell. That was the first scene. At that time, Son-yeol's father also rushed to the hospital, but his son's condition was very critical. If he didn't have heart surgery, he wouldn't live much longer. At this moment, the phone rang, and the person on the other end of the line was Kim Jun. When Son-yeol's father arrived at the agreed location, he found that Gunwoo was not seriously injured and was still able to cry and call for his mother. So Son-yeol's father immediately said that Gunwoo should be taken to the hospital. But Kim Jun's next words changed his mind, because Gunwoo had seen Kim Jun's face. If the drunk driving incident was exposed, his dream of becoming president would be shattered. Kim Jun could not stop just because he hit a child. Therefore, Son-yeol's father wanted his son to live on. That thought turned him into a cruel person. So, after the two agreed on a plan, Seon-yeol's father put Gunwoo and the tablet in his car. At this moment, he looked back at the innocent little life behind him again, and he was also very hesitant. But thinking about his son struggling between life and death made him make a decision. The wheel ran over Gunwoo mercilessly. Then, he carried the dying Gunwoo away, leaving him in a sparsely populated park. But Son-yeol's cruel father never expected that Soo-hyun would be so persistent. His retribution came so quickly. Now the truth was revealed. Son-yeol's heart was in desperate pain. He couldn't even face reality. Son-yeol ran out of Soo-hyun's room, not daring to believe that his father could kill someone else's beloved child for him. Finally, Son-yeol understood why his mother wouldn't let him take revenge. The sad thing was that all of this originated from Son-yeol. Meanwhile, Soo-hyun in the room was in so much pain that she couldn't bear it anymore. She screamed in agony that no one could understand. Outside, Son-yeol didn't know what to do either. On the other side, Kim Jun had realized the danger and started hinting that Soo-ho should take good care of his wife. Although Soo-ho still didn't know what Kim Jun meant, from his expression, Soo-ho could see that Kim Jun must have grasped his weakness. At the same time, Soo-hyun calmed down and started to fight back. She filed a complaint against Kim Jun. At the same time, Soo-ho also received a reply message from Soo-hyun. She told him about the tablet, but these words made Soo-ho extremely worried. Meanwhile, Son-yeol was in a state of deep self-reproach. He was even provoked and beaten by the thugs, but he did not resist even a little bit. Perhaps that was the only way to make Son-yeol's heart filled with guilt gain some balance. As for Soo-hyun, although she knew that Kim Jun's background was not easy to deal with, her determination to take revenge made her not hesitate at all. At the same time, Son-yeol also went to the cemetery, giving flowers and small gifts to Gunwoo. But the important thing was Son-yeol's promise to Gunwoo that he would definitely protect the boy's mother. Therefore, in the silent darkness, two figures appeared at the same time. One did not want the person behind to bear the sins his father left behind. The other was extremely guilty, wanting to do something to make up for the person in front of him. This was also the first time Son-yeol stood before the enemy who killed his father, shedding tears of regret and shame, because Son-yeol finally knew what is good and what is evil. His father had the heart to kill Soo-hyun's only son to save his life. Although he eventually died at Soo-hyun's hands, Son-yeol now understood what is called the law of cause and effect, what is called tolerance and kindness. What Son-yeol needed to do now was not simply to atone for his father. Above all, he had to help Soo-hyun take revenge. The one who created all this tragedy was Kim Jun, but the result was beyond Soo-hyun's imagination. The press press conference that was prepared to expose Kim Jong's crimes was not attended by anyone. On the contrary, Kim Jong, who was running for president, was very welcome. Most importantly, Soo-ho knew then wanted to expose Kim Jong's evil, but he betrayed Soo-hyun. Soo-ho opened the safe, took out the most important evidence that Soo-hyun kept in it, and gave it to Kim Jong. Kim Jong, after obtaining the evidence, also immediately destroyed it, because he knew that as long as the evidence was not the original, it would have no value in court. Soo-ho's actions made Soo-hyun completely desperate, but when faced with Soo-hyun's question, Soo-ho did not hide anything and immediately admitted. At the same time, he told Soo-hyun not to have any illusions that she could attack Kim Jong through the media, because that action was useless. Moreover, Soo-hyun was also in danger because of it. Although Soo-hyun was forced to tell the truth that his son's accident was caused by Kim Jong, Soo-ho seemed determined to make Soo-hyun understand and stay away this. But these attacks seemed to be unable to shake Soo-hyun. However, how could she escape from Kim Jong's power? On this side, although Son-yul had prepared a gift, he was too ashamed to enter Go-eun's restaurant, and Go-eun had seen Son-yul. However, Son-yul did not expect that Go-eun was like Soo-hyun. Not only did she not hate Son-yul, but on the contrary, she advised him not to let hatred cause him to drown in suffering. But Go-eun didn't know that. All the hatred in Son-yul's heart was now directed at Kim Jong. At the same time, Son-yul also asked his friends to search for victims who were harmed on Kim Jong's path to the presidency. Although the process was difficult, they finally found the pitiful victims who were harmed by him. These people were afraid of Kim Jong's power, so they still refused to join the alliance to file a lawsuit. Seeing that the victims they had worked so hard to find were now afraid and wanted to withdraw. Finally, Son-yul spoke up. He recounted all the misfortunes he had to go through for the others to hear. The victims saw that everyone around Son-yul was suffering like that, so they no longer hesitated and immediately agreed to sign the complaint to eliminate the common enemy. On the other hand, just as Soo-hyun predicted, the case she asked to investigate was deliberately ignored by the police. Soo-hyun also had a way to deal with it. However, the message that Son-yul sent made Soo-hyun extremely surprised. It turned out that the reason Son-yul collected the victim's information was because she wanted to support Soo-hyun's next actions. The way Soo-hyun dealt with Kim Jong was to enter the literary world that she was once proud of. She used the autobiographical method to expose the true nature of the former mayor under the hypocritical appearance. Soo-hyun also revealed the culprit of the whole incident. That was the candidate for the position of President Kim Jong. The reason Soo-hyun chose the press conference to launch her literary work to expose Kim Jong's crimes against her son was all thanks to Yoo-ri. Because in the past, when Soo-hyun was still an unknown writer and was trying to assert her talent in the literary world, Yoo-ri used to be Soo-hyun's manager. Now, a producer contacted Yoo-ri, hoping that Soo-hyun could return to the literary world. So Yoo-ri, who was determined to make amends and help her elder sister, finally found an opportunity. Therefore, Soo-hyun took advantage of this book launch press conference to tell everyone about the unfortunate story her son had encountered. Through the power of the media, under pressure from all walks of life, the police finally accepted Soo-hyun's request to reinvestigate the case. At the same time, facing this wave of public opinion, Soo-ho maintained an extremely calm attitude. This made his colleagues doubt that Soo-ho was influenced by power and money. On the other side, after Soo-hyun provided the police with all the evidence, she also breathed a sigh of relief, because without Son-yul's help, things would not have gone so smoothly. On this side, Kim Jong was going crazy, venting his anger on his secretary. But the truth also made Kim Jong a bit helpless, because no one could have expected that Soo-hyun would be able to use a book launch press conference to expose his crimes. Furthermore, Son-yul had collaborated with Kim Jong's enemy. So from the very beginning, things were out of control. But Kim Jong wouldn't admit defeat so easily. So he asked his secretary to find the recording of Son-yul's father's phone call with Soo-hyun that year, and then stood up in front of the media to announce this recording. In the recording, Son-yul's father blamed Soo-hyun's son for hitting his car. From then on, he thought that this had affected his business. Therefore, Kim Jong said that just like the content in the recording, the person who stabbed Soo-hyun's son to death was not him, but Son-yul's father. After Kim Jong's statement, the trend of public opinion clearly changed. At the same time, they thought that Soo-hyun and Son-yul were on the same side, colluding to spread false rumors to ruin Kim Jong's reputation. So the lawyer reminded Soo-hyun not to get too agitated, but Soo-hyun didn't think so. She fought until the last moment. All Soo-hyun did was silently protest. However, Soo-hyun's actions affected both sides. After seeing the elder sister's protest, Yoo-ri gathered volunteers to support Soo-hyun. On the other hand, Kim Jong took advantage of Soo-ho's weakness. He asked him to manage Soo-hyun well. Son-yul went straight to Kim Jong. He asked him if a murderer could become president. Son-yul's words completely angered Kim Jong. He strangled Son-yul and regretted not dealing with Soo-hyun. However, Son-yul turned the situation around. Son-yul was about to lose control, but fortunately, he still held back. So why would someone who had always been smart like Son-yul do such a thing? There must be a purpose behind it. However, Son-yul underestimated Kim Jong's cunning. He not only taught Son-yul a lesson, but also found a recording device on Son-yul. At the same time, Soo-hyun's persistence gradually moved everyone. Then she wouldn't have to fight alone anymore. But Kim Jong wouldn't let Soo-hyun threaten him like that. So he ordered his subordinates to deliberately destroy Soo-hyun's protest site. In a moment, the scene became extremely chaotic. Fortunately, Son-yul appeared registered in time. This riot caused a backlash, helping Soo-hyun gain more and more supporters. However, the presidential race had reached the final moment. No matter how hard he tried, it would be in vain. But at this moment, the audience supporting Kim Jun was attracted by the big screen in the square. Suho suddenly live-streamed and broadcasted a live video of Kim Jun's evil actions. The reason Suho agreed to be his subordinate was because he wanted to take advantage of Kim Jun, knowing his weakness. So on the surface, Suho pretended to follow him and cut off his relationship with his close friends. But in fact, he was working with Son Yul. This video immediately exposed Kim Jun's evil nature. But that alone was not enough to make the people lose faith in Kim Jun. So Suho used his final trick. He took out his son's tablet, and the content inside was the whole process of how Kim Jun and Son Yul's father planned to kill Gunwoo. After that, Suho left his role as the host. As a father and a citizen, he recounted the crimes that Kim Jun had committed. After Suho said everything, the people who were still blindly believing in Kim Jun suddenly became enlightened. No matter how hard Kim Jun tried to save situation, it was useless. And after Suho finished all of this, he finally couldn't hide his sadness. At the same time, Kim Jun also wanted to order his secretary to resolve this crisis, but the result made him completely desperate. It turned out that Son Yul had investigated all the evil things that the secretary had done for Kim Jun, including killing his own mother. Therefore, after the secretary was successfully persuaded by Son Yul, he used a hidden camera to record all the evil deeds that Kim Jun had done. After that, what Kim Jun had to face was the punishment of the law. Justice finally defeated evil. This made Son Yul and Soo-hyun very emotional. The two looked at each other with tears in their eyes. All the crimes that Kim Jun had committed were investigated one by one. Hiram also kept her promise to Soo-hyun and went to court to testify for Kim Jun's crimes. In the end, Kim Jun was sentenced to life in prison for committing an unforgivable crime. Soo-hyun finally knew the reason why Gunwoo had an accident that year. It was because Soo-hyun did not close her house, and this video was used by Kim Jun to threaten Suho to give up the investigation of him. Therefore, everything Suho did was because he was afraid that Soo-hyun would no longer have the courage to live. But can the two of them get back together again? Soo-hyun and Yoo-ri become good sisters again. Son Yul also regains her dream of becoming an excellent doctor. Soo-hyun continues to become a beloved writer. The story ends here. Thank you for watching this drama. See you in the next drama. Bye.